Okay, good morning and good afternoon or good evening. My name is Victor and I'm going to be an anchor for this show. Today, this is a CISCO CyberOps training and this is the lab sections. So we've looked at quite some labs. So today we're going to be exploring the lab 5.15 lab, which is tracing a route. Now, this is a very straightforward lab. What do we want to be able to do? We want to be able to use ping. We want to be able to use Traceroute. We want to be able to use maybe a web-based Traceroute tool. Background. Tracing a route will list each routing device that a packet crosses as it transverses the network from source to destination. So the question is that if you have a location A, now you're trying to access something from location Z. So the question is, how many hops, how many routers, how many networks do I have to transverse from between point A to that point Z? So the command you can use to do that if you're on a Windows PC is tracert, then the IP address or the name. If you're on a Linux system, use traceroute, tracert or traceroute. So these two tools are often used for network troubleshooting, for instance, and not just for network, because most of the times when you say network, you limit yourself because websites also have mapped to a particular IP address, and also websites sit on network, or web applications, they sit on network. So for the fact that they sit on a network, it then means that for us to be able to access those websites, that's why most of the times you see websites having IP address. Okay, also by showing a list of routers transverse, it allows the user to identify the path taken to reach a particular destination. Okay. Scenario. Okay, this traceroute utility, what are we going to be using to do this CyberOps Workstation VM? So let me start that very fast. Then we can also replicate same thing using our Windows command line interface. So what are the instructions? So we need CyberOps Workstation, and we also need internet access. So let's walk through the instructions before our machine is up and running. So the first thing we want to do is to start the CyberOps Workstation. Once we start the CyberOps Workstation, we want to log in. So my machine is up and running. So this is it. I start it up. Once I start it up, I wait for it to be on. Then the next thing I want to do is to go to the terminal. I log in, I go to the terminal and say ping -c 4, that is 4 packets. That's kind of the frequency at which you are pinging, then www.cisco.com. So you want to actually access this website. So what it's going to do is going to start pinging, because you are moving from your own network right to the network where you have this guy hosted. So, or rather, for ping is just trying to see if this guy is up and running, right? That's why you do you use ping for your diagnostics. Okay, my PC is still booting up. So what's the result here? So your results might differ from this. It might depending. So the first output line displays the first qualified domain name, dcca@edge.net. This is followed by the IP address, that is this. So this is the same thing as this. This, the same thing as this, or this maps to this. Cisco holds the same web content on different servers throughout the world, known as mirror. So when you say mirrored server, it's for redundancy purposes, so that once a particular server is down, or a particular version of the deployment is down, we can still have the other version up and running. Okay, that's one. So once our system is up, we're going to run that. So the next step 2, it's tracing a route to a remote server using Traceroute. So the first one is we just trying to do a ping. if you decide while our Linux environment comes up, we could still decide to do this same thing using the command line interface. So I just want to get out from my listen. So I just change directory into the main folder. So I could decide to do ping -c for www.cisco.com, right? Okay, I need admin privileges, right? So I could say CMD and start this as an administrator. So this other version, okay, yeah, so this good. This other version is starting as an administrator. So ping -c for www.cisco.com. Okay, bad value for C. Let me just try a ping for www.cisco. Sorry, the C. Let me use the default value. IP address must be specific, must be specified. Okay, let us try a ping cisco.com. Let's see what we have. So we have pings-c for, so the IP address is 72.163.4.185. Right, so that's the IP address I got from here. So let us see. Bad value for C. So I think this is not going through. That's why I said earlier on in some of the labs that, you see, what you have here, right, in the Cisco CyberOps labs, they are all made to work in that particular environment. So I guess administrative privileges, though I have logged into logged in as administrator, is still they didn't sign me in. So let me use the lab environment that has been predefined to work. So the password is CyberOps. So I'll get to my terminal and try all of this. So one thing we can ascertain is our IP address is 72.163.4.185. It's different as at this particular point in time. Depending on when this lab was run, Cisco might, of course, change their servers, change their deployment method, pass through the application through a CDN, content delivery network, or something else. So you might get something similar, you might get something quite different. But the most important thing is that when you ping a particular IP address, a website, you can know the status of the website. So once it receives 4, no packet loss, it then means you have an uptime. Just like what we had here, right? If you ping, nothing lost, everything 4 sent, 4 received, nothing lost, that means this site is up and running. If I do ping southtechventures.com, right? Once I see the number of bytes sent and the bytes received 4, once it's same, nothing lost, that means this website is on. For instance, if you try something that maybe does not exist, right, something of nature. So you're going to see that it's going to try again. Even if it's an active domain name, but is down, what is going to happen is it's going to say sent for, received 0, 100% lost. So you know that that particular website at that particular point in time is down. So that's one advantage of you using the ping command. So we go to the terminal that has been prepared for this lab. So we'll say ping -c for cisco.com, right? So you see, that's why I said this particular environment is meant for that particular lab. So that's why you see everything is going to work fine. So same thing here, you ping a particular IP address or a particular domain name. Let me try the IP version now. So I'm going to be trying 72.163.4.185, right? I'm going to get same thing, right? Whether you are pinging the what's it called, the direct IP address or the domain name is still going to map back and give you the same thing. Don't forget, it's the same, I guess. It didn't give us the same thing. Did it? This is 721634185. Okay. Maybe different environment or because of the way this virtual machine has been configured. Okay, so back to the labs. So that's for part A, verifying network connectivity using ping. So you can just use the ping command, the IP address or the domain name, and you're going to know if that website is up and running. The second one is tracing a route to a remote server using Traceroute. So you want to know how many hops. So what do you call a hop? Each hop represents a router. So a router is a specified type of computer used to direct traffic across the network. So you have a networking, you have a switch, you have a router. So what a switch does is to push packets to forward traffic within a network, whereas a router is going to move traffic away from a network or connect two network together, or to transfer traffic from one network to the other. That's what is called a route, to route the traffic away from that particular. That's why, for instance, for you to have access to internet, you need a router, so that within your office network, it could take all of the traffic, all of the queries you are running, and pass it to your ISP so that you cannot get onto the internet. So how do you do a trace route? Okay, this is for anybody that's not maybe connected to the internet. In case when you set up your lab environment, you tried browsing and you couldn't, so you could attempt any of this to fix your internet. Okay, so at the terminal, traceroute cisco.com. So are we clear? CLS, or rather clear? Traceroute cisco.com. Am I correct? Traceroute www.cisco.com. Yes. Enter. So what do I have? I put this like this. Okay, so you see, it's checking through. So the first gate, the trace route for this is telling you maximum 30 hops. So quite a lot of routers between where we are and getting to Cisco. Tap 23 is going to be reading. Okay, let me also try this on Windows environment. Let me also try this on Windows environments. Clear screen. Traceroute www.cisco.com. Tracert www.cisco.com. Don't forget, we said for Windows it's Tracert, for Linux it's Traceroute. So what is this guy doing here? So this is my router. So he's trying to get to this place. So this is my home router, 192.168.1. I can show you that. 192.168.1. Sorry, 8.1. So that's my home router. That's this guy, 192.168.8.1. So of course, in the previous lab, I've shown you that if I do an IP config, I'm going to get the IP address of my own PC, this particular PC I'm using to connect. So this is my home router. So I think this guy is still going down. Still going down. 30. Okay, it's done. So 30 ops. Unfortunately, for the Linux environment, it didn't give us details, kind of, right? It just ended it. It didn't give us details. It just ended the stuff, right? But the Windows environment, good enough is giving us quite a whole lot of details. It's telling us that when we did trace out to Cisco, we want to go know how many hubs, how many routers do we have from our connection to Cisco. It says that we're going to this place, this is the IP address. Now told us that this is our first hub, that's my home router. From there, we move to 10.6.1.1. From there, we move to 10.6.1.36. From there, right? Like that, like that, like that, like that. So these are different servers till we get to the particular point where we are hosting the Cisco website. So the trace is complete. How many hops? It told us over a maximum of 30 hops. So this is just a summary of all of, you see, at the point it got to 11, it timed out, but it continued and it was able to trace till we got. Further investigations you can now do is try to know, go to WHOIS, use some other tools, reverse DNS, check this IP address, where does it belong to? This IP address, who's the owner? This IP address. So you could see the path between your network down to where this particular application is domiciled. Okay, I think that's just about tracing a route. So you see it here. Is there another thing that is of importance here? Okay, if you like to save the traceroute output, right, you could do something like this, right? Use the right cat and the desired file name to output the present in the present directory. In this example, the traceroute output is saved in the home analyst Cisco CyberOps.txt file. So just run this command. So I'll be running something like this. I'll be running something like this. Traceroute www.cisco.com. Then I say I'm mapping to this particular file. That is Cisco dash. I can call it anything. I can just call it Cisco trace, right? .txt, right? So what will happen is that it's going to save that file. So the question is, where is that file? That file is going to be inside the home analyst file. So how can we read it? Like in the last class, we did the last class, I can just Control Z. So in the last class, we did Nano. You could use Nano to read, or you could use cat to read. Cat Cisco trace.txt. I stopped it, so I pray it was complete enough. So that's the content, right? So you see just exactly what you have up. Okay, there's another one here. Perform and save the traceroute examples for the following. So you could do this on your own, right? Some of these routers along the route may not respond to traceroute. Just like we saw in Windows C11, it didn't respond, it timed out, but it jumped and moved over to the subsequent routers and it was able to capture the routes. Okay, step 3, trace a route to a remote server using a web-based tool. Try going to the following website. So let me try this. Oh, trace still active. GSU.tools traceroute. Okay, visual traceroute, domain IP, I could say Saltec. Site is still loading. So you see, you could do email checker, check the validity of an email. You could do an SEO audit if you're a web designer. You could check page speed. For instance, I use ping-dong. Page speed, right? Test. That's what I prefer, right? I could just put my website there and see how fast the website is and see the pages that are slowing down the website. So good enough, the GSU tool has that. DNS lookup, WHOIS, I normally use whois.com, whois.com slash whois slash Sautech Ventures. That's a very direct way to, of course, without the www, or you go to whois.com. Just whois.com, and you are there. So I like to use the pingdom. Then you have the SSL checker. You want to check if SSL for a particular website is still active and who the provider is and when it's expiring. So you have ping, you also have traceroute. So you could try this tool. It's going to give you same results, very same results. And it can give you something visual, right? Okay, so let me try the traceroute. Since this is visual, trace. Once I'm done, I'll try the one for CISCO. So allow that to load also. CISCO.com. So for whois, you can also use this whois.com. You type it here, not here. Here is when you want to purchase. So you see the whois for Sautech. This domain was purchased 12 years ago. Is redirected to somewhere in Cloudflare. It has some private data here. So let me check for the first one we just did. Good. Okay. So see the gateway, blah, 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 up to this point. See the IP address. Now, let me zoom this in a little bit. Okay. So it's telling us that server is somewhere in Asia, also an island, getting me to the US, right? And that's true, right? Because we deployed CDN, Cloudflare. So the Cloudflare server is somewhere here to here. So if you're hosting directly and you want to see where you are routed through, so it would have been from here back to this point. So it's just an estimate. But if you want to get real details, you can actually investigate each of these IP one after the other. Then you can see the different countries where those IP addresses are domiciled. Then you can actually do is a sketch of how your traffic moves from where you are to where the particular application is hosted. Okay, that's traceroute. Reflection. Any other thing? I think there's one more here about. Okay, that's traceroute. So we've done that. Enter the website. Press CISCO. Press trace. We just did that. I think we did for Sautech Ventures. If you get an error, this in Firefox, then CyberOps Workstation time is incorrect. So this is if you are doing it in the CyberOps machine, but I did it in my Windows PC, right? gsuite.tools/traceroute, enter the domain name, hit on trace, and you get a visual map. Okay, so I think that's the end of the lab for 5.15. The traceroute from the terminal is different from one on the website. The domains such as CISCO can be hosted on many websites or mirrors throughout the world. This is done so that access time to the website will be fast from anywhere in the world. So that you call that, so if you want uptime, if you want redundancy, then you could replicate, right? Your applications in several places, which you call mirrors. So same thing you have here, you have it in several places so that your website can load very fast and available to everybody. Thank you very much. See you in the next lab.